Hello, I'm Jack.
I'm Beth.
And this is our travel blog as we travel around the world for the next year. So our first stop, we flew to Madrid, and then from Madrid we headed over to Central America, Mexico City.
Follow along with us for the first leg of our journey. So we stayed in a hostel called Hom Roma in the Roma district. This was the room. As you can see, it's pretty basic, but it does the job. Homemade washing and drying lines there. And then as we go down the corridor, get to the bathroom, which again, pretty basic, made better by the fact that someone vomited in the toilet and just left it there. Awful shower pressure, but we made do. And then there's a bucket under the sink for you to flush the toilet with because the flush doesn't work. Nice little terrace though, so that's a bonus.
So after breakfast we headed to Chapultepec, which is one of the biggest parks in Mexico.
And the fourth largest in the world.
It's got multiple museums, boating lakes, you name it, it's got it. A beautiful area, as you can see.
Then we wandered through a street market where they were either selling really colourful crisps or monkey hats that sprayed water out of them.
The weather was a delightful 24 degrees. I regretted my choice of wearing trousers that day. You can see here a lake absolutely brimming with fish, all flown on the surface looking like they're dead, but all alive.
We also visited El Museo Nacional de Antropología, which is the archaeological museum, which was really interesting, but to be honest, we were more impressed with its gardens because they were just really nice and peaceful.
This is called Dance of the Flyers, or as Beth put it, a maypole on steroids, which is a fairly accurate description.
This is Plaza Garibaldi, where all the mariachi bands come and try and play your songs for 200 pesos each. We visited the Tequila Museum, which was quite underwhelming, and all the tours were only in Spanish and we're not quite there yet. But it did include 2 free shots, so we made the most of that. Don't think Jack's a fan though.
Had to walk out of the Tequila Museum and down through the plaza to see some of the statues.
Then we took the metro back to the hotel to have a little siesta before we went out for the evening. But not before...
Siesta done, we're back on the bus, ready for the most anticipated part of Mexico for me. And then it was time for Lucha Libre!
Third row seats, £16. Take my money.
Here we have a highlight from the Flip Gordon versus Dragon Rojo Jr. match. I'll let you sit back and watch.
These guys really weren't holding back either. The guy with all the tassels on his arms ended up getting stretchered out at the end. This was Jack's reaction the entire night, which, to be honest, he looks happier than he did on our wedding day, so that's saying something. So we woke up and decided that we should probably incorporate some fizz into our normal everyday life now. So we started doing 50 press-ups, 50 sit-ups and 50 squats every day.
For a cheap breakfast, we headed to the supermarket and bought a load of fruit and pastries. We headed down to the local park to eat and wandered through the markets again, which were in full force. Plenty of monkey hats to be seen. Mexico City has some incredible statues.
But alongside this, you're hit with the reality of a lot of missing people, which you can see from these missing people posters here, splattered all across the city. We then got back to the accommodation and had a flap because our plans were in absolute rag order. The original plan was to do numerous bus trips to Chetumal through the centre of Mexico pretty much. That would have taken about 30 hours and probably about 110 quid. Instead, we found a flight to go from Puerto Escondido to Cancun for the same price, and then we're just going to bus it down the coast instead.
The next morning we jumped on the metro and then transferred onto a local to head out for the day.
Then we visited the pyramids of Teotihuacan, where they have the Pyramid of the Sun, the Pyramid of the Moon, and the Temple of the Feathered Serpent.
The temple and pyramids ran along a 4-kilometre section known as the Road of the Dead. This was because they believed the buildings that ran alongside were burial sites, when in fact they were homes and businesses, although human sacrifices were regularly carried out there.
I had a quick pit stop where I had a ham salad sandwich with guacamole and jalapenos, and by God it works. At this point it was as hot as balls, so we headed back on our 20-minute walk to the bus stop and headed through this really picturesque town. There was lots of colourful bunting and graffiti on the walls. Then on the way back the bus broke down, so we got crammed into another one where it was going about 70 miles an hour, weaving in and out of traffic, fearing for our lives. Taco! Corn. With Jack finding new ways of packing his bag, we headed out of Mexico City and on to Puebla.
After finding a station being shut down, we ended up getting a taxi through the main bus station, and from there we headed on to Puebla, which was a 2.5-hour journey. Once we arrived, we needed to get out of the heat, so we headed for Pasaje Histórica Cinco de Mayo. This is a 500-metre long tunnel system that dates back to the 17th century, but was only discovered in 2011 whilst constructing a viaduct in the area.
I soon realised that the taco tax was due, so I needed to be near a toilet for the rest of the day, which isn't ideal when you don't have any accommodation. I tell you what, the Mexicans love a bit of bloody bunting.
This is the main cathedral in the centre of Puebla, and surrounding it you'll find lots of incredible Renaissance-style buildings, which is why the area is classed as a World Heritage Site. We then headed to an iconic bar to try La Pasita, a raisin liqueur which comes with a nice piece of goat's cheese in it. Surprisingly, it was actually quite nice. We then finished the day in Puebla at this beautiful lookout point, watching the sunset. And as you'll see in a second, the sun sets nicely behind one of 2 volcanoes in the area.
Then we got an overnight bus from Puebla to Puerto Escondido, which took 8 hours, and no, we didn't sleep an ounce.
Arriving in the area at 6 a.m, we decided to travel with our bags down to the local beach, which had about 1,000 steps to get down there.
And we were escorted by this little gal.
We sat at our place on the beach and watched the sunrise.
Absolutely ravenous, we headed to a local cafe where we got this French toast with maple syrup, loads of fruit, and then some smoothies.
This was our Airbnb room with a nice double bed. We had a fridge without a water dispenser, which wasn't very handy. And then the bathroom, which was again fairly basic, but ticked all the boxes, and slightly better water pressure than our previous shower.
We spent pretty much the whole day just chilling by the beach and relaxing.
Taco!
Another taco! Then we got up the next day and it was much of the same, just finding a spot on the beach to chill and have a dip in the sea.
And now back to Beth Whitaker Animal Rescue.
So after a few hours and a bit of sunburn, we headed back to the accommodation to chill. Then we both finished the day with a bit of uni work.
Got out late morning, past what we thought was a building site, but it turns out is an active church.
This is us walking down to the beach. As you can see, it's pretty busy, but it's stunning. And luckily we managed to find this spot at the side where it was fairly quiet.
But Beth did have to stay in the shade and cover her legs with sand to ensure she didn't get any more sunburn.
Not tacos for once. Quesadillas. Friday night beers to remind us it's the weekend.
So clearly, as part of our plans, we decided to be here while Puerto Escondido had its yearly festival, which included a load of parade floats and an evening of music.
This included the burning of bad mood ceremony, where they just lit a coffin up on the stage.
The festivities carried on into the evening. There was live music, which carried on till about 2:30 in the morning. So we didn't have a great night's sleep.
Then we headed back to catch up on Severance. The next day we got up early and headed to the beach so we could hire a surfboard. Neither of us managed to stand up though, and I nearly drowned, so next time we'll go for a lesson, I think. Here's me looking absolutely snapped. I think I'll just stick with floating around.
We spent the afternoon doing a bit more university work, and then we headed to the supermarket, bought a couple of beers, and headed to the beach to watch the sunset.
Absolute scenes. We walked to get some dinner via a street market, which again was just selling everything you can think of, but mostly tat. And then for the first day in the trip, we didn't eat tacos. We had this banging pizza from a little Italian restaurant instead.
And to finish the evening, as part of the festival, they had a famous Mexican ska band on called Inspector. Check them out on Spotify.
Then we got up, did a bit of morning fizz, and then it was time to pack the bags, ready for the airport to go to Cancun.
I'll see thee.